Hello everyone, how's it going? So today we're doing something new on this channel. I'm going to be doing a reading vlog of L'Île aux Moines by Pascal Malosse, sorry. And so this is Monk Island. I did a poll a few days ago on whether you think I should talk about books I read in French or in English. And y'all were so divided. It was 50-50. Granted, 5 people voted and it was like 3-2 and 3 people said in English, 2 in French. I might do both down the line. I think it depends on what book specifically we're talking about. This one is pretty short, and so what I think we're gonna do is that I'm gonna read maybe a chapter or two and tell you guys what's happening so that even if you can't get your hands on the book, you still know what the book is about. A little more in depth than just the plot. So here's my first stop. I read chapters 1 through 3. So our main characters, by the way, I love this about this book. The main characters are portrayed like they have a little portrait thing. So there we have Inspector Logier, and then the 2 other main characters are Agent Patroni and Frère Marie-Jacques. So this is Agent Patroni. She's part of the police squad, and Brother Marie-Jacques, yeah, he's a monk. And so essentially the story goes that there have been murders on in a monastery that is on an island. So the main character we follow is Inspector Logier, and he gets to the island, meets up with Patroni, who's already there, and he starts to interrogate some of the monks, only to find out that evening that there has been another murder. Ooh, so far it's good. It's actually very easy to read. It's very smooth, very chill. Again, you know I'm not a huge fan of detective novels, but if it's dark and spooky enough, I'll dig. I think the one thing I'm just a little bit worried about is that Agent Patroni is a woman, and so far she's the only woman there. Why would you have a woman at the monastery? And also, if you're gonna have women go to the monastery, why would you send only one? So that's my first update. I'll check back in later. Hey guys, alright, who's ready for another update? So sorry for the lighting, I'm waiting for the bus. So I forgot to give a few specifications, which was the island is right outside of Cannes in France, and so the inspector was sent from Paris. So basically in the next chapter he comes up with his first theory, which is that the housing agencies in Cannes are trying to murder all the monks, and also that they could sell the real estate and make money from it with like tourism and whatever. In the next chapter there's a 4th murder where they find one of the monks in a barrel of wine that hadn't been opened for years, so they don't know what's up with that. And then in the next chapter after that, the inspector goes to Cannes to confront the real estate agents. So that's where I'm at. I'll update you guys later when there's more lighting. The best I can do for you guys, this is as much public vlogging as I'll ever do. Basically, the inspectors presented with 2 theories by the monks. The first one is that it's the devil doing it, because all the murders happen at the golden hour, 3 a.m., which is the hour of the devil. Now the inspector's like super atheist and thinks it's baloney, but technically he can't disprove it, and he also can't come up with any other theories, so it's kind of like, we'll let it go for now. And then the second theory is that because the 4 first murders, 4 murders happened at 4 of the 7 chapels that are on the island, but in a certain order. Like basically the monks have to do this trail from the first to the last, but it's happening in the reverse order, so they're like, ooh, the devil is trying to like enter our area or whatever. And that theory is proven wrong, because one of the monks is found dead and skinned. Dead, like they found him in a tree, and skinned with his skin next to his corpse. So then, because of that, all of the monks and all of the police team decide to leave the island, except the inspector, because at this point he's like really in bad shape. He's like super depressed. He is looking for booze. He's like looking for solitude. Like, my guy is just over it. He was literally like, I was so happy to be the last one on the island because I didn't have no boss, no hierarchy, no nothing. And then he went to scratch his belly on the trees. That's literally what it said. Anyway, I'll update you when I finish the book. All right, guys, so I'm finally done with L'Île aux Moines, Monk Island, and here are my thoughts. I have some mixed feelings, to say the least. So just to give you like a brief recap of the two last chapters, basically after everyone leaves the island, the lieutenant, or the inspector, sorry, inspector is doing his thing. He is like finally happy to be free of his responsibilities, free of all these monks who had beliefs that he thought were ludicrous. He is free of everything basically, and he's quite ecstatic. As he's hanging out on the beach, this stranger comes up to him and he's like, "Oh, I'm so happy to finally meet you. I'm your biggest fan. I've been wanting to meet you forever. I've been following your cases. I just love your work. Please, like, I'd like to invite you for dinner, you know, blah, blah, blah." So the inspector is like, "Yeah, sure, sure." And like, no hesitation. And he follows the guy, and they go back to the monastery's dining hall, or is it one of the chapels? No, I think it's the monastery's dining hall. And the inspector gets there and finds this Last Supper type situation with, it's just very decadent. And the guests there, when the stranger said, "We have been waiting for you," are all of the victims. So the two people that were murdered before the story started and the two other monks that were murdered during the story. You understand then that it's a supernatural kind of disconnect from reality that the inspector is having. I don't know if it's character or world building. I think it's more character building, or like the vibe slowly was diving into darkness or madness, if you will. It lacked a little bit of build up for me. There were a few clues, don't get me wrong, but it just almost came a little bit too much out of nowhere, where I wasn't really on board with the vibe. I had to read about the book edition and the author to kind of get that that's his type of writing, you know what I mean? Just to give you more information, this is the Ogmios edition, or Ogmios editions. To my knowledge, these have not been translated to English yet, but if you're interested and you read in French, actually, if you're learning French too, this would be good because the language in this book felt pretty approachable. And from my understanding, these are all fairly short books. I mean, this was like 80 pages or so. I could have read this in a day. It's very easy to understand. And then at the end, I actually really like this about books. They say here, and I'll insert a close-up, on the left, there are all the books from the collection that have already been released, and on the right, books that are to come. So this is the second one in the collection. To my understanding, these are different authors, which means that there is not a continuity to the story, as in there's no background from the inspector I needed before this. Because that's what I felt like. Maybe there was something about the inspector that wasn't said in the story that could have given more clues as to how he goes into darkness. Aside from the fact that he hates his job, like, there's not much to go on, which I don't know, that's kind of too bad. And the other thing that is really, I don't know why this is wigging me out as much as it is, but why would they have a female lieutenant if the investigation is on a monk island? You know what I mean? Like, it almost feels like the author threw in a female just to be like, "Oh, let's not write only dudes." But it's like, if the story calls for all dudes, then just have all dudes. It's not weird. Like, don't have a female in a monastery. You know what I mean? Because there are other women, like when the inspector goes back to Caen, to the mainland, there are women there, and it feels very natural. But for some reason, like, her being on Monk Island is just, doesn't make sense. I'm not giving this anything out of 10 because I'm done with grading books out of 10. It's not an assignment. But I will say, I think this is a good book. If you want a quick read, something spooky, it still has an atmosphere of spookiness, right? And maybe you'll pick up on clues that I didn't pick up on. Do check it out if you see it in store. If someone asks you about it, I would recommend it. So yeah, I hope you like this review. Let me know if you want more of book or videos like this where I kind of tell you my thoughts as I read it. Maybe not necessarily the whole story, but even just thoughts as we go. I don't know. What do you think? Anyway, don't forget to subscribe. Leave me a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.